lot, and I want to start by applauding and putting on record my appreciation of the thoroughness of the program. I think this is a very, very well thought out program, and I think this is classic Satya Tiwari style of attention to detail. But I think there's a larger team in this, and I want to congratulate everybody who has worked hard to set this together. And I think all the students who are a part of this VSIP are getting an education of a lifetime. I think this is what these are things that you would probably not learn in college, or even if you learn in college, this is a great opportunity for you to put all of this in action and understand how businesses operate in the real world, how customers operate in the real world, and how money is made essentially. So typically, this is really probably an education that you will not forget in your life. So I'm glad, and I'm seeing I've seen only 2 presentations. I'm sorry I couldn't join in the afternoon, but I'm sure all the other presentations were equally impressive, and they were done in with a great amount of detail. So congratulations, everyone. So let me talk about the digital world, and yes, last time I had shared that a Gartner report. And, for those of you who don't know Gartner is a group that follows the technology world, and they release reports every year. One every January. So there's a report for 2020, there's a report for 2019, and so on and so forth. So in the 2014 report, Gartner had said that about by 2020, 75% of businesses will be a digital business or will be preparing to become one. Right. So digitization is disrupting businesses is probably one of the most cliched statements that you would have heard. But this is something they said 6 years ago. And my sense is today that it is not about 75%, but I think 90% of businesses are digital. Because if you see most of everything that you do, how you live your life is largely online. And one of the reasons why the least affected people in my household are my children is because they are digital natives, and they really nothing has impacted them. They are able to absolutely live their lives perfectly on their iPads or on their mobile phones, and that's the reason. I mean, the reason for that is because a large number of businesses have actually gone online. And what is happening is that customers are so comfortable with the online world today in certain age groups, probably in your age group, millennials of people who are born in the late 90s and after that are so comfortable with digital that companies, they have absolutely no problem in engaging with brands and companies online. And probably it has also led to a very important behavior shift, and that is that as these kids are growing up, as you young adults are growing up now, your interaction with brands is becoming you are becoming very presumptuous about brands. So if you look up something online and you don't find it, chances are that you are going to become very angry or irritated, or you would say that ye kaisa brand hai yaar, ye online mere ko kuch nahi mil raha information, and you will probably write off the brand much faster. So brands or businesses that are not online have that risk of never being able to connect with a customer group that is increasingly living online. And the reason for going digital cannot be a stronger one than that, right? So you cannot decide to go digital just because your competition is going digital. That should not be the trigger, right? It's not about the competition, it's about the customer. So where does the customer go? And if the customer is online, so if 75 or 80% businesses are online, that means about 100% of customers are online. Businesses will only follow where customers go. So that's one of the largest behavioral shifts. And why are there 100% people? Why are we saying that there are 100% people online? Because what has happened in the last 5 years is probably that 900 million people or 1 billion people in India own a smartphone or own a phone, right? And there are more phones in this country than mobile and than toilets, and those cliched data points. So when so many people, when 1 billion people in the country own a mobile phone, that's the first access to the online world, right? No one is going to worry about whether you have a laptop or an iPad or a fancy gadget. Any smart, regular, a low-grade smartphone also puts you online. That's one part of it. The other part of it is that data costs have come down drastically. When data costs have come down drastically, streaming video content is not going to be a problem at all, right? So that's why TikTok has huge number of people, right? 40 crore, 50 crore people are actually on TikTok, and it's one of the most successful social media platforms, largely because of mobile, because of internet connectivity in the hinterlands, in rural India, and the fact that video streaming is not going to be very expensive. So all of these put together are actually driving more and more of the population online. Now, what this means is that when people go online, they change their behavior also. Right? So people will not behave in the same way offline as they behave online. Now, online gives you a level of anonymity. It gives you a level of less accountability. It gives you the hiding behind an avatar or something like that, right? You don't have to put up your real name. You can create a profile which is not you in the real sense, right? So people actually feel less inhibited online, and this has come across in social media as trolling, as people become very abusive sometimes. And when you get direct access to celebrities, politicians, and people who you would never be able to talk to in the offline world, you start to kind of use that access in more ways than one. And this is true of healthcare as of now, because what has happened over the last few months in after COVID came up is that doctors were scared of losing their patients, and they were afraid that patients would actually go away, because if the doctor is not accessible, doctor shopping is very much a possibility. So if I'm not able to meet my physician, I will look up any other physician and go and meet him. Although I might not do that as the first instinct, but if continuously my physician is not available, I will be forced to look for somebody else, right? Some other doctor. And today is the era of XaaS, right? So earlier all of you must have heard of SaaS, right? That is software as a service. Today XaaS, where X stands for anything. So anything is a service. So even a doctor is basically a service provider. So if people are looking at doctors as service providers, then all the olden day emotional attachment with these doctors is gone, right? The whole point of somebody trusting the doctor, or this doctor being a part of the family, or a family physician who has treated 3 generations of the family, those days are long gone. Long gone as in they are going away. Okay. More and more corporatization is coming into the healthcare space, and what you are seeing are that doctors are increasingly available and are kind of selling their service for a price. We're not sitting in judgment whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. What I'm telling you is the behavior, the way the macro environment is changing outside, and how the way healthcare is becoming affected. So if doctors are getting online, what are the kind of things that doctors want to do online? So doctors are saying that we are becoming more and more open to digital channels, but we want to use those digital channels to engage with our colleagues. So I want to talk to the other doctors. Okay, it's a great networking platform for me to know what my colleagues are thinking. So discussion platform, discussion pages. Okay, peer-to-peer interaction, videos of doctors talking to other doctors. These are the things that doctors like. Okay, and so services that need to be created to engage with this customer group online is not about branding or not about pushing your brand, but more about doing what they like. Okay, so we are talking about behavior changing, and when behavior changes, there's a level of anonymity, there's a level of lesser accountability, etc. And what moves away is basic politeness and obligations. So if a doctor was to meet a medical rep, okay, he would make the medical rep wait for an hour, about an hour, or sometimes 2 hours, and yet give him a call, because he would feel sorry for the guy, right? The guy has been waiting diligently for 2 hours, and if he's there when the doctor comes out after his last patient is over, he will say, come in quickly and tell me what you want, right? He gives him a call. That same doctor does not feel that obligation to engage with pharma online, because it doesn't matter. There is no obligation there. There is no person that he has to say sorry to, or he doesn't have to feel sorry to anybody, right? So if content that pharma is sending out to these doctors is not going to be relevant, then the doctor is not going to engage. So what doctors are saying is, how do we know what is relevant? Our brand messaging is not relevant. Our brand messaging is relevant only to ourselves. What is relevant to the doctor? What is relevant to the doctor is what are my other doctors saying? How can I network with those guys? I want to understand. I want to improve my capability by listening to other doctors. I want to maintain business continuity. So how am I supposed to talk to my patients? How are my patients doing? So, if you look at these four quadrants, what they're saying is doctors want to engage with their physician colleagues. They want to engage with patients to understand or to maintain business continuity. They want to understand how these patients are actually adhering to their advice. Okay, when a doctor says, "ये गोली लो, हर रोज लो, sugar कम करो, cholesterol तेल खाना बंद करो, तला हुआ खाना बंद करो," all those things, it's very difficult for people to actually keep up, right? Because you are used to a certain lifestyle, and that lifestyle habit doesn't go away just because a doctor has told you that. So it you need to be constantly reminded again and again, and that's what doctors want to do. They don't want to do it themselves, but they are looking for help to be able to do this, on someone to do this on their behalf. Okay, and that's why this whole area of digital therapeutics is opening up. Now, digital therapeutics are companies which are running virtual disease management programs. They are connecting the doctor. They're basically platforms where they connect the doctor and the patient, where the doctors can talk to their patient, and patients are connecting with patients like them, and therefore building communities, right? So if I am a diabetic patient, I'm more likely to listen to somebody else who is also diabetic, so that they can advise me, rather than someone who is, just sending me flyers or some marketing material which is branded and all that. I'm not going to listen to those people. So credibility is a very, very important thing. The most important thing that you must have when you are engaging online is credibility. If credibility falls through the roof, falls through the floor, nothing you do will matter. Okay, now in the offline world, credibility comes from the rep, right? So the rep is very well known to the doctor. He's been visiting him for a long time, so he has a certain level of credibility. The organization that the rep represents has a certain credibility. So doctors have this obligation. Online, all of that disappears. They really don't care about it. And one of the reasons why doctors have stopped engaging with pharma is because pharma has moved away from a service orientation, which we used to do in the past with a lot of pride, to product pushing. Okay, so every opportunity is seen as an opportunity to push a brand, right? So even when we send a very nicely worded "Dear Doctor" letter and say that, "Doctor, we are proud of the services that you have done, either on Doctor's Day or for COVID," and saying that you are the first line warriors and you guys are taking care of coronavirus patients without a thought about your family and your personal safety. We are very grateful to you, etc., etc. And then we go and spoil it all by putting below, "From the makers of brand X, brand Y, brand Z." Okay, and the moment the doctor sees that, that whole credibility of that communication falls through the roof, falls to the floor. Sorry, and when it falls to the floor, people are not going to engage. So when what happens when, as gradually pharma has moved out of the service area, what is happening is that white spaces are getting created, and the empty spaces that pharma is leaving behind are increasingly getting occupied by tech companies, by healthcare companies which are adopting technology. So the Librates, the Practos, the 1mgs, the Curifys, the Docplexes, the Curefits, all of these companies are coming in the droves, in the millions. Okay, and hundreds and thousands of dollars, billions of dollars are getting invested in this. But $44 billion has gone into digital health tech in the last 10 years, and 10 billion came only in 2019. Okay, now these health tech companies have one focus only. It's not that they don't have products, but the focus is not on the product. The focus is on customer acquisition, customer engagement, and customer loyalty. Now and that essentially comes from services. So they are focusing on services. They're working in areas like patient care and outreach, doctor and prescriber services, reach, etc., which were traditionally pharma domains. Pharma used to do this with a lot of pride. Unfortunately, now somewhere we've lost track and we've become very, very product oriented. Doctor, please prescribe my brand. It's all about my brand, my market share, my prescription, my doctor. It's never about the customer. Okay. Are doctors consuming content? Of course they're consuming content. Yeah, like doctors are human beings like you and I, and on an average all of us have multiple screens, right? We have a laptop at home, we have an iPad, we have a phone, or we have two phones, variants of different gadgets. On an average we have about 3 screens, right? So 96% of doctors have a computer, almost everybody owns a smartphone, almost everybody has a tablet. Majority of people have tablets, and more than 60%, more than 6 out of 10 doctors are triple screen users. Now this is 5-year-old data. which is why it's 60%. But if you look at, if you ask them today, I'm sure it will be in the excess of 80 or 85%. Everybody has multiple screens. Now, what's the takeaway from here? What's the point about people using multiple screens? The content that we create must be screen specific. Okay. Now, if you look up an engagement platform that essentially is creating a lot of content around the fact around patient education, for example, and that platform is not accessible from your mobile phone. So if you log on from your mobile phone, it has a terrible user experience. The only way you can actually read something on that is through your laptop. How much do you think this is going to help? It's not, because we said that most people are accessing the internet through their mobile phone. So when you have a content strategy, the first thing that you want to do is to be mobile friendly. Okay. For people of your generation, probably this is intuitive. Okay, so you must be thinking, why are you telling me this? I know that I have to be mobile specific. But what happens is management teams, marketing teams within organizations tend to ignore this, right? When agencies send you content, you will look it up on your laptop, and that's the only screen that you will have actually review content from. And if everything looks nice on your laptop, you'll say great and approve it. And finally, when you access it from your mobile phone, you realize that this is not mobile friendly. Okay, it takes a little bit of attention to detail to be able to realize this. So it's important to remember that HCPs or healthcare practitioners or doctors are using multiple screens. The same applies for patients. Okay, so content that has to be created must be multi-screen compatible. What are doctors interested in? Doctors are interested in pharma resources, but with their own people, with their own physician communities. Okay, so what we don't want to do is actually create more and more product websites. I'm not saying there's no role for product websites, but it's not a given that if you create a product website, doctors are going to come there of their own accord. Okay, very often marketing managers come and say that, you know, we are building a website, we're building a website. They build a website, but they've budgeted only for the building of the website. No one's budgeted for marketing the website. They really don't have a plan for marketing the website. So everybody puts up the website, suddenly the website goes live, but the only person who knows about that website is the marketing manager and his wife. No one else knows about it. So no one's going to come. And when nobody comes, then suddenly, that's why you see numbers like 219 visitors, 27 visitors, 400 visitors, etc. on pharmaceutical websites, which the brand manager will actually, you know, will showcase to you with a great deal of pride, saying that this is the website that I have created. The fact is, no one knows because they're not marketing it. Okay, what is important is that the website that has to be created should have content which is customer oriented, which the customer should set the context for it. Unless the customer sets the context for it, I can, you know, this is like me setting up my own website and talking about how great a person I am. Who's interested in knowing, right? Nothing. That's exactly what your brand website looks like, right? It's about telling you how great your brand is, how great your product is, how great your company is. Unless that appeals to people, unless there is a connect with people, no one's going to come to your website. So that's, you know, there is a way in which in online marketing has to be done, and that has to be done in a subtle manner. It can't be as blatant and in your face as media planning is, like, you know, billboards and all of that, because there, you know, people will just move away, and you don't want people to move away. You spend a lot of money, you want people to come, you want them to engage, and you want them to be with you and consume the content that you've created. Okay, now this is, you know, doctors are more likely to use professional resources that are created for professionals. So this is something that corroborates the earlier slide, so I'm not really going to talk about it. I think from a consumer perspective, like I said, you know, India is the largest market, or the second largest market after China, you know, in terms of people being online. And what is surprising, and you must have seen this data because this is about 2 weeks old, came in the Times 2 weeks ago, that India has more people in the rural markets who are online than in urban markets. Okay, about 10% more or less. So about 21 crore people in urban India are online, while 22 or 23 crore people rural India are online. Okay, and how are they online? No one has iPads. I mean, very few people may have iPads in rural India. Rural India, people are on their phones, right? Their phones will probably not be iPhone 11 or iPhone 12 or anything like that. They'll be basic smartphones. So this has all got a lot of impact or a lot of implication on the content that you create, on the browsing speeds that you create, on what level of platforms that you use. what level of what do you call that, rendering and all that that you do for that content. If your content is extremely well rendered and high level, which requires massive bandwidth, it's unlikely that these people will be able to consume it. Okay, so one, being ready for the mobile phone. Two, making sure that you are keeping the rural customer in mind, not just the urban one, is a very important part if you want to get scale with digital. Okay, the other one is that things like TikTok, these are all extremely effective platforms. Today, there's a little bit of an anti-China sentiment, and TikTok, probably you're not very sure whether this will be good or not. But my sense says that this is a platform that is so powerful and so popular. You're looking at this, right? You have about 50 crore people, 46 crore people are using TikTok. Okay. Now, if that many people are using TikTok, it's unlikely that everyone is going to do away with it. So TikTok will still continue to be a very popular social media platform in the foreseeable future, and it has a massive reach. So about 50 crore people have one app. You can imagine the number of people who are really accessing all this information. Okay, the content that we make. So these are opportunities, right? What platforms to use, how to quickly get scale, what level of content to create, how much, which device should I go through, what content format should I have. All these things are answered with data points or proxy markers like this. The cheapest mobile rates, like I told you, right? Data is the cheapest, about 26 cents in India, while it is like $12 or $20 in Switzerland per GB, right? So this is 1 GB of mobile data is 26 cents, which is the cheapest in the world. How can we make use of this? Okay, the fact that data streaming is not very expensive, the fact that mobile phones have penetrated deep into the hinterlands of India, the fact that TikTok is such a popular platform that almost half the Indian population has, or one-third of the Indian population has it, all of this put together, it appears that there is a massive outreach or a massive scale that can be achieved. How do you achieve this scale? This is a scale that you can do only when you use technology, right? You can't do this through reps, or you can't do this through the offline world. What you need is to leverage technology. Now, technology is a resource liberator. It allows you to scale without your marginal costs being very high, or the cost of scaling up is very marginal. The other point is that there is almost a universal acceptance of these platforms. The only thing that you have to get right is get the context right. The context should not be set by us in our offices. The context should be set by customers. The content has to be then made for that context, and then the channel has to be decided appropriately, keeping in mind your audience, right? Are you looking at an urban audience, or a rural audience, a mobile phone consuming audience, or an iPad audience, or stuff like that? So all of this kind of plays through, and this is something that I wanted to kind of use to spark off some thoughts in you, and I'm very eagerly looking forward to your ideas. Think about how you want to use all of this information when you're building your brand plans and you're working on your marketing strategies, and I'm available at any point of time to help you.
Salil, thank you very much. Thank you indeed. I mean, actually, you just demonstrated that without really knowing the do's and don'ts, the digital philosophy, the digital etiquette, the digital credibility, I mean, there is no point. Otherwise, we would have been simply flying kites while you taught us the aerodynamics. Actually, so it's like jumping to fly kites without understanding the aerodynamics is more like having fun and merriment at the cost of knowing the basics. I think it was really a great tone setter. It
Thank
was
you.
honestly, I mean, and I have actually seen many presentations, many such kind of data, but the way, I mean, you remind me of our old association and the past days, how you actually come across. You're a master. So again, many thanks to you for that.
Thank you very
I
much.
think greatness of a person, guys, lies in his sublimity. जितना फलदार वृक्ष होता है उतना ही झुका हुआ होता है. तो सलिल से जब आप बात करोगे तो you will always feel like that. But I think the output was really commendable, eye-opening, and it really, at least told that what the doctors are behaving digitally,
Yeah.
and what the doctors actually are expecting you digitally. I think a pharma company, we call them into a pre-embryonic stage of development, actually, not even, fetal stage. So it's, we say that because they haven't advanced in digital so much, and that's the reason, because they don't understand the consumer behavior part of that doctor who needs what actually.
Hmm.
And this really was a great curtain raiser. I mean, I think no other person, no other time would have been better, but for this, that you actually set the tone.